What's up guys, it is your friendly neighborhood Dingo, and as all of you know, I made a video yesterday about the Australian Prime Minister getting attacked by a mob of Muslims during the celebrations for Eid in Western Sydney. Now we all saw the videos. It was clear as day how the mob tried to get him inside the mosque and also outside the mosque, security jumping in, imams trying to make the whole mob just calm down a lot more. But something interesting has happened right after all that happened, and the Prime Minister of Australia is wanting you to reject exactly what we saw with our own eyes yesterday. What we saw widely being reported even by the mainstream media, Mr. Albanese wants you to reject as Orwellian as it is, and appropriately reject the evidence right before your eyes. Now I want you to watch this video where Australians versus the agenda. This account here has nicely edited the video where you can see the comparison between what the Prime Minister of Australia is saying versus what actually happened. And I'll be completely honest with you before I started, I'm not surprised. I genuinely am not at his reaction. This is what we have come to expect of him. Someone who was essentially on his hands and knees like a dog in front of the Islamic community yesterday for the Muslim vote. That's all he wants, and that is how important it is to him, where he has to come out and lie in this manner to everybody else. So let's see what he has to say.
Oh, look, I've seen some of those reports and they're just simply not accurate. There were 30,000 people plus at Lakemba this morning, overwhelmingly. The reception was incredibly positive. I walked through the crowd to the mosque and not a single person heckled. There were a couple of hecklers inside. They were dealt with. Contrary to what's been suggested, no one was rushed out. We just sat there, it was dealt with.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
It was dealt with by the community themselves, because overwhelmingly they did not want that to occur. And I thank very much the invitation. It was about respect for a very important day, Eid, for the Muslim community there. I thank them for the very warm reception that was occurred.
But it's not its time. Don't bring him here. It's not the time. It's not the time. It's his government. It's his government that called them when they were praying. We don't want politicians, brother.
Yes, there were a couple of people who were heckling.
Shame on you! Shame on you! You want to kill our brothers and sisters doing the fuck? Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Some people don't like the fact that we've outlawed extremist organisations like Hizb ut-Tahrir, and that brought a response from a couple of people. But if you've got a couple of people heckling in a crowd of 30,000, that should be put in that perspective.
So you can see exactly what he's trying to do here. He's trying to minimize what actually happened yesterday, and you can just plainly see the type of lies our politicians tell us almost every day. And with something so clear to us, something as clear as day, we all saw the heckling and the mob that was trying to surround Mr. Albanese yesterday. It wasn't one or two people there. It was a very large number of people who were a mob, essentially trying to, you could almost say they were trying to lynch him. Now, I asked you guys this question yesterday, and I'll ask it again. If there weren't security, the New South Wales Police and his government assigned bodyguards there yesterday, what might have happened? Because no matter what, no matter how much you try to appease these people, now we know exactly what Albanese has done to appease this particular bloc. Now, quick note before we move on, if you're enjoying the video, please give it a like and hit subscribe. This channel is almost entirely fan supported, so if you want to support the work and the mission behind it, consider signing up on Patreon. That's what keeps the channel alive and gives you early access. It's completely ad-free and longer and uncensored videos, written articles, and member-only chats. He has recognized Palestine. He's trying to bring back ISIS brides into the country. Well, I always make this mistake of calling them ISIS brides, but they're ISIS members. He's granted more visas to people from Gaza than any other Western country in the world. In fact, I feel like it was something like over 3,000 visas granted, and most of them weren't actually vetted. I remember some media organizations that went and had a look at some of these people right after the government said, yeah, you know what, sometimes we did vet them in like 30 minutes and then we found nothing that was of concern. And these media organizations, then they went out and found multiple posts on these people's Facebook and Instagram where they were celebrating terror organizations and terrorist attacks all over the world. That is the type of person he is. And that is not even considering the fact that he's given tens of millions of dollars to UNRWA, to Gaza. He's given tens of millions of dollars to Muslim organizations here in Australia during a time your everyday Australian is struggling with a cost of living crisis. Now we can in another video perhaps we can talk about the economy a little bit more, but that is the type of person Albanese is. Now I want you to quickly also show you, this is just, I don't even have the words for it. Let's see. I really don't. So quite literally, one of the first things, like you can see the timestamp here, it's 8:30 a.m. this morning. So after all this happened, you know, like global media, they're reporting on the fact that the Australian Prime Minister got mobbed by the Islamist crowd that he's been trying to appease for so long. You know, the classic, he's so shocked that the leopard finally ate his face type of thing. And yet the first thing he puts out is this stereotypical diversity is our strength post on X. It's just, are we living in an alternate reality here? What the hell's going on? Like we literally just saw diversity in a mob trying to attack you and possibly trying to do some really violent shit to this guy. And the first thing his team puts out is diversity is our strength. Now, speaking of the Australian Prime Minister lying to you about the actual events of yesterday, the Australian government has been passing laws and continues to pass laws that are removing your freedom to speak about topics just like this online. That's exactly why I use Proton VPN and why I think you should too. They're based in Switzerland, outside the reach of US, EU, UK and Australian law. They don't keep logs and are built by the same team behind Proton Mail. When the UK passed its surveillance laws, Proton VPN became the #1 app on the App Store. Their stealth protocol beats censorship firewalls. Secure Core routes your traffic through privacy-first countries, and NetShield blocks trackers before they ever reach you. I've used Proton Mail since Australia announced sweeping surveillance laws last year, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it's now essential. If you want to protect your privacy and support this channel, hit the link below to get up to 60% off Proton VPN. Do you see a lot of diversity in Muslim majority countries, Mr. Albanese? I don't think we do. In the vast majority of these Muslim majority countries, I mean, I would honestly label a lot of them apartheid states, because not the people who are not Muslims, women, people of certain ethnic minorities, all these people are oppressed. In a lot of countries, you can't even practice some other religions legally, or you have to do it privately. And yet Mr. Albanese is talking about how bringing people from those countries in by the millions, tens of thousands. Almost every month we're bringing in something like 60,000 people. And Albanese, after getting mobbed like that, he's talking about how diversity is our strength, how multiculturalism is our strength. And now he's talking about, what is this? How many days are there like this? The International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. God, do we really need a day for this? Honestly, these people are infuriating. And he's talking about no matter what language you speak or what faith you practice. Mr. Albanese, you try to rub shoulders with a demographic in this country you could argue are probably the most intolerant of other faiths in this country right now. Like, we have a problem in Australia where Islam is not seeking to coexist with everybody else. It is seeking to dominate. And I've said this many times. I've said this yesterday and I've said this today as well. For people like Albanese, you know, you could try to appease them as much as you want, but they will never ever accept you unless you also become an Islamist. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the word Islamist. They're always like, oh, you know, what's the difference between Islamist and Muslim? And I'll tell you what, Islamist, you could essentially argue, is a word for political Islam, or someone who essentially is trying to achieve the political goals of Islam. But as I always say, and I've tried to educate a lot of people about this topic, Islam is political in nature. You can't really differentiate between them. But I guess it's easier for a lot of people to understand it when I say Islamist. But unless Mr. Albanese was an Islamist himself, which is obviously not going to happen, and he's talking about banning Hizb ut-Tahrir and all that, they're never going to accept him. In order for them to accept him, he would have to essentially destroy all of Australia's traditional alliances. He would have to send weapons to terror organizations. He would have had to fund all these other failed states in the Middle East. He would have to create really weird alliances. He would have to go out and say real weird shit that 99% of the population would not accept. Well, actually, hold on. 97% of the population would not accept, because 3% is Islamic. That is where we're at. And yet, you know, he's putting out posts like this, talking about the fact that despite being in danger himself, he's talking about how you have to accept that diversity is in fact your strength. Like, you can repeat it as much as you want, but it doesn't make it true. Like, this diversity is our strength mantra does not exist in a vacuum. Just because you have a melting pot, you could probably add a really bad ingredient to said pot, and whatever dish you were making in that pot is just going to get ruined. That's where we're at as a country. And yet Albanese, he wants you to reject the evidence that you saw yesterday from Lakemba. He wants you to think that none of that happened, that everyone's singing Kumbaya, everyone's real happy holding hands. None of that is the case. Like, what kind of a country, what kind of a government is this that they want you to behave this way? Like, it's utterly unbelievable, genuinely. Look, guys, this was a short one, and that's all I had for today. But if you liked the video, just like always, remember to give it a like, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and comment your thoughts down below. And I'll see you next time.
In the neon haze of a broken dawn, steel towers hum, but the wild runs on. A shadow moves through the circus below, half machine, half beast, with a violet glow. They thought the outback was lost to the flame, but a dingo